I am very excited to present the new 14-inch Lenovo Legion laptop. This laptop just released about a week ago on the Lenovo website, and it just arrived a couple days ago. So I've been testing this laptop for a couple days now. I basically got it as soon as I possibly could off the Lenovo website. It's not a review unit, I actually bought it myself. I've been very excited for this laptop. I actually bought a G14 a few days ago, the Asus G14, and I waited to do any testing on the G14 because I wanted this laptop as well. Asus really had a lockdown on that 14-inch lineup where it was the only real model that was a gaming-focused 14-inch laptop, and it really does appeal towards people who are gamers, people who are content creators, coders, graphic designers, even professionals, because it really was that nice, clean 14-inch package on this Asus G14, and they really were the only ones who were making these for the past few years. It looks like Lenovo decided to get a piece of that because they finally came out with their own 14-inch competitor. It's very similar in size and specifications to the G14. I have a 4060 model here, but they have added a few features to really set it apart from the Asus G14. I'm gonna have at least 3 videos on this laptop. I'm gonna do my full standard review here where I tear this laptop apart. I do all kinds of tests on it, and I'm gonna do some games at the end of this video here. I'm probably gonna have a second and even third video where I test many AAA games, brand new games, most demanding games. I'm going to toss them at this laptop and see how it performs on all these different titles. But then I'm going to have one other video where I compare it to the G14 as well, which is its closest competitor. I'm going to look at all the different aspects of these two laptops, form factor, I/O, performance, temperatures, gaming performance, and all that. I'm going to compare them. So here's the specs here on the laptop. You can see I'm going with the American website just to basically get an idea. The price looks like it actually just went on sale. So you have 2 different options on CPU. You can go with the Ryzen 7 7840HS, or you can go with the Ryzen 9 7940HS. Not a big difference between the two of them. Apparently there's an RTX 4050 offering. It's not in the builder right now, so maybe down the road there is. I would go for the 4060, like it's going to be a huge upgrade. So the 4060 there. There's 2 different RAM options. You're going to get 32 gigabytes of RAM or 16 gigabytes of RAM. You can see here that there's the 2 different options on the CPU, so 7940HS. So we switched that over there. One thing that I find weird is when you go with the 7940HS processor, so the Ryzen 9, we drop down to 16 gigabytes of RAM. That's a really weird kind of prerequisite there. I find that strange. So for me, you know, the difference in these 2 processors is pretty minimal. You're looking at like maybe a few percentage in difference. I would definitely opt for, $50 to double your RAM. This is the way to go here. So get yourself that RAM there. And you can see here that we get an OLED screen. Right now, there's no IPS screen. I mean, maybe down the road there will be, but right now it's just the OLED, which I think is the primary selling point of this laptop. Higher resolution too, so you can see here it actually runs above 1440p because it's 16 by 10, and even above the typical 1600p you find on laptops. So very high resolution there, and it has 100% DCI-P color spectrum. So it's not only going to be a beautiful OLED screen with very fine resolution, runs at 120 hertz, doesn't say it here, but it runs at 120 hertz, 400 nits, and it's got a great color range there too. And Lenovo does a really good job of calibrating their laptops too. So great screen offering on this laptop. Power brick is your standard Lenovo 170 watt standard Lenovo charger. You can see there, you get your Lenovo proprietary charger. Okay, and there's the laptop. So it actually looks very similar to the 16-inch model, almost identical to be honest, other than it's just physically shrunk. If you see my video of the Legion Slim 5 16-inch AMD model, it looks basically the same, just smaller. This one thankfully is slim though, unlike that one, but there's a look there. So you get an all metal lid. Oh, the bottom's metal actually. So that's metal there, metal top, but there is some plastic. So this kind of ring around the front and the back, that is definitely plastic. In comparison, we have the Lenovo Legion 7 Slim, same metal top, metal bottom, but then that's just like a brushed metal around the outside. In comparison, the G14 doesn't have like a ring around it, but this is plastic, same idea. So plastic all the way around there, metal lid, well, that's a little plastic, but there's metal there. So it's basically the same as the G14 with a mix of metal and plastic. Metal where it counts, like the lid and the bottom, plastic where it doesn't count as much, such as these sides here. 2 USB-C there on the left side, nothing else on the left side. Right side, full-size SD card reader. So if you're a photographer or a videographer, that's actually probably going to be pretty nice for you because you can just pop in a full-size one. The G14 has a micro SD, camera, kill switch, and a microphone, headphone, combo jack. No other I/O on the right side. But Lenovo always sticks stuff on the back, so you get your HDMI on the back there, and you get your two USB-A on the back there. That's just the power in, and to exhaust. And they label it so you can see 10 gigabit speeds there. So good fast USB-A. This is an always on port. You can see there that little battery, meaning you can charge your phone overnight and sleep your laptop. Okay, like I said, I will do a couple comparisons here between the G14 and the Legion 14-inch, but I'm gonna have a dedicated video, so you'll want to tune into that for a full breakdown. But you can see here, a little bit taller. Width is a tiny little bit, half an inch or 1 centimeter, just shy of 1 centimeter on that side. In terms of height, about not quite an inch, very close. Thickness, basically the same. So the form factor, if you use a G14, is basically the same. 1.999, so 2 grams, so 2,000 grams, so 2 kg, which is, about 4.5 pounds if we convert that over, 4.4 to be exact. So 4.4 pounds, basically. I've moved to my office here to test the Legion 14, and let's take a comparison here between the Legion 7 Slim. So this is, Legion 7 Slim, this is Legion 5 Slim 14. Still, it'd be nice if I had my 15-inch version of this laptop, but you can see here, the thickness is about the same, but it looks like here, they are very, very, very similar. You can see there, a little bit thicker on the Slim 5, very, very slightly thicker, but almost identical. The height, you only lose a little bit of height there actually, which is interesting. You have the bum on the laptop there, but there is a bit more width, as you can see there on the 16. So 16 is thicker there. It's actually not as thin as it's actually not as small as I thought it would be. I was worried it was gonna be tiny. It seems like it's probably a pretty good compromise there. You definitely lose about an inch on size there, but not too much on the back. So it's in the same realm as the Slim 7, I would say. It's nice and thin, not too tiny. Some 14-inch laptops are tiny, so hopefully that means that this have good cooling in that too. Okay, so obviously you just take out the screws around the bottom. There's no hidden ones on this like the G14, so that's nice. Get this in here. Nice and easy to get off. I usually find the Legion 7s are easy to get into. The Legion 5, I think it was the 5, was really hard to get into. This one's not. There isn't some stupid plastic thing on here. It's just a metal shell bottom. So like the Legion 7 Slim, it's easy to get off. So that's an upgrade. The fact that this is just a slim bottom. Nice metal. Plastic there, you can see. Inside here, we get 2 thermal pads for the dual NVMe. Spoilers, the dual NVMe. And a little bit of a thermal pad there as well. And then you get some structure as well. So nice and good, and huge intake there. So lots of airflow will be able to go in there. And here is the inside of the Legion 5 Slim 14-inch. This actually looks really good. Huge fans there, considering the size of the laptop. Super, super dense fins there, like really, really dense fins there. Pretty thick, all things considered, so that's pretty good. Dual heat pipe here, nice big heat pipe there that's shared between the two, one for each CPU, GPU, one here going through the VRMs. There's actually some thermal pads on there. I don't want to touch that. These use PTM. I believe it should use PTM underneath, which is a phase-changing material. So basically it's going to be solid or hot, solid or kind of goopy like thermal paste when you're running it. So typically, if you're doing like a benchmark on this laptop, let it run for a few minutes before you run that. But that looks good. The cooling solution looks pretty solid. We'll see how that goes. Speakers aren't anything to write home about. They're fine. The 7 lineup typically has better speakers. They're like the big speakers on the 7 lineup. The 5 typically are a little bit shallower, so it's not going to probably have the best audio. We'll see. Battery there, 73.6 watt-hour battery, so big for the size. The Legion 7 Slim has a full 99.9 watt-hour battery, so it gets better battery life, but it's also a bigger laptop. So that's big for there. With the CPU that's in here, we should have no issues. Wi-Fi there, upgradable, easily accessible, so you can just pop that out, put in new Wi-Fi, no issues there. And dual NVMe. So you get your first NVMe here that's included with it. I don't know what it is, but we'll bring it up later. Probably a Samsung Pro variant. It's typically what they do, an OEM version. And second NVMe, so huge benefit there, having dual NVMe. The RAM is soldered on this device here. It should be technically under these here, somewhere around here. This one, I think you can get with 16 gigabytes of RAM. Don't do that. Get yourself the 32. This is 32. So I have 32 gigabytes soldered to the motherboard. That's going to be good for now and especially going forward. But there is an upgradable NVMe. So I can have dual NVMe storage when I'm done here, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and then of course upgradable Wi-Fi technically if you want to do that. But primarily you're probably going to get this, most likely leave in your OEM drive. Probably just leave that in there because they're typically really fast. Get yourself a nice bulk storage like an MP, Team Group MP. So let's do the dual-sided test. Left side slot, no issues. Let's try the right-sided slot. I don't think it's going to because it has this ribbon cable here, but it might fit. Absolutely not. It would completely break if I did that. So dual-sided NVMe's got to go in that slot there. Single-sided, you can put on the right side here. So the keyboard here looks pretty good, all things considered. It's the first Legion without a numpad, so that's going to be a little weird for me to adjust to. I'm going to be using this laptop quite a bit, actually, so that'll be a little weird to adjust to, but it's fine. Otherwise, it looks basically the same. So here's a Legion 16-inch, Legion 7 in this case, 7 Slim in this case. So there's a little bit of a variance between them. Actually, right off the bat, I can see the keycaps are higher. So the Legion 7 Slim has a slightly smaller keycap on this here. The travel is still good on this here. Nice, 1.5 millimeters of travel, but the actual physical keycap is smaller, and it's like a glossy texture there. This one here has a similar glossy texture, not quite as glossy, but similar, much smoother than the Legion 5 Pro and the Legion 7 Pro, which I don't like their keyboard texture that much. It's like a black matte. But the travel on this is actually this lot, and the keycap itself seems to be raised up more or larger or something. So there's actually like, I don't know, slightly more raised. This keycap itself is slightly more raised up. So for me, it actually instills a little bit more confidence when typing because I can feel more keys. It's dedicated. Directions kind of separated out. These are still dedicated and everything, but they're closer. It's just a smaller keyboard, so they need to make some changes there. Even this is a plastic top here, so the bottom is metal, top is metal. Here this is metal, so you can see there's like no flex, right? Like it's super sturdy. This is all metal. There's a little bit of flex here, right? The whole like thing here. Like you can see the metal there. There's some flex, but again, it's plastic, but it feels fantastic. So, when you're typing, it's not like flexy. Test them. I'm typing very awkwardly. I'm like actually reaching over. Excellent typing experience. Between the two of them, this has a better typing experience than this. Even though this has a tiny little bit less keyboard flex when you're pressing on it, deck flex. This one has a little bit more, but I don't press that hard when I type personally. And the slightly higher raised keycaps is better. Trackpads are both very smooth. This is hyper smooth on here on the Legion 7 Slim. This one here is smooth. Not hyper smooth, but smooth. Hyper accurate trackpads. I find Lenovo and probably Asus are probably the best two for trackpads. Like, nice click. Over here, so a little bit higher. So this has a better click. It's just, I think it's because it's a thinner chassis and it's metal. I don't know, it's just super snappy. This is a little bit quieter. We can see here, we have that right there. That's the fingerprint sensor. That's exactly what that means there, that there's a fingerprint sensor. I can set that up later. Some people like that biometric login. Some people don't. Whatever, that's your call, really. So there's the lighting there. It's not really RGB per se. It's just kind of a lit keyboard. Yeah, so normally over here, we would have our like RGB center for the RGB keyboard. This is not like an RGB keyboard. It's a backlit keyboard, right? So you can go brighter, off, kind of medium, and then really bright. This is an important software that you might want to consider keeping. This is the Lenovo Vantage software. And in here, there's a few different things you can do. You can come in here and you can do updates. If you look at here, I've done apparently did an NVIDIA driver update. You can also get BIOS updates in here as well. This is where you're going to want to do a BIOS update. You don't want Windows to do a BIOS update. Just make sure you look into the updates before you apply them, specifically BIOS updates, just so you don't want to script your system. Do a search online to make sure it's okay. You can always roll them back if there's an issue. You can also do some OLED protective stuff here. So I have it set to taskbar dimming at 30 seconds. I actually decided to just hide it. But if you actually do use that, what it'll do is it'll make your taskbar dimmer and less, more transparent, which in theory should help with burn-in. Any static element on an OLED is a potential risk. I mean, they're getting better and better, but still something you might want to do. I just hide my taskbar, which is actually kind of nice because I get more screen real estate. You can background dim, get your actual background to dim. Your whole display, you can do that as well. Rather than just turning off the display, you can do that. So that's important for OLED protective. Of course, you can do GPU overclocking, which I already have turned on. You can see here, you can set up to 200 megahertz overclock on the GPU clocks and up to 400 megahertz on the VRAM clocks. You can increase that. So that's a nice thing to add. Shouldn't cause any issues whatsoever. Then another thing you can do in here is you can do your GPU working mode. So I right now have it set to hybrid, so it'll switch between the iGPU, the 780M on the AMD chip, or the 4060, depending on what I'm doing, gaming or whatever. You can also set it to just basically pure iGPU mode. Hybrid iGPU will exclusively use your integrated graphics. That'll give you more battery for just day-to-day tasks too. So no issues running that, whatever. And then you can also do, I don't do this one here, I do also use DGPU. That'll turn off the integrated graphics and you'll go purely on dedicated graphics. You may say, why would I want to do that rather than just using hybrid? Well, in theory, if you're doing just pure gaming tasks, you'll get a little bit more uplift if you're doing only DGPU because there's wattage only going to that. So in theory, if you're doing gaming, you're just going to do the GPU mode. The adaptive refresh is really nice. That'll allow you to go from 60 to 120 hertz depending on whether you are on battery or whether you are on plugged in. X-Rite is a color profile that's just on by default. If you do a fresh Windows install, you're going to want to install that. That's very important, especially for these OLED screens. Thermal mode is going to limit or increase wattage to your CPU and GPU. So quiet mode is going to significantly decrease. You can see down here I'm on blue. That actually doesn't show well on the camera, but that's a blue ring right there. It will decrease the wattage to the CPU and GPU quite a bit. You'll get significantly lower fan noise even when gaming. And these NVIDIA GPUs are very capable at lower wattages. You'll see when I do my game testing on this laptop, you can actually game on quiet mode and get very respectable performance. It's totally fine. I actually get really good performance on that. This is going to be a very vibrant screen. For one thing, it's a glossy screen. Glossy screens typically have more vibrant colors, even if they're IPS. So an IPS glossy screen is going to be more vibrant than an IPS matte screen, obviously, but you risk reflections. This is not only a glossy screen, but it's also an OLED screen. So it's going to be very, very vibrant. Very, very, very super vibrant. The camera is not even doing it remotely justice. It looks way better in person. I'll just tell you that much. So it's an OLED, so you can see me now reflecting. Those are absolute blacks. Beautiful. It actually gives a level of depth to it. If you've used OLED, you know what I'm talking about. I'm just rambling, but you know, beautiful screen, obviously, in terms of the blacks are just absolutely fantastic on this here. But the colors are also very vibrant. Blues, so vibrant. They look terrible on camera, better in person. Greens, that looks pretty good, actually. It's a very beautiful screen. And the camera's not picking up the colors. Everything looks way more vibrant in person. So not only is it an OLED and a beautiful OLED, but that, you know, really high color range and color accuracy, it's just awesome to consume media. I know, it's just a really nice screen overall. Okay, so now I'm going to do an audio test here. We'll start at, I guess 30 and see how it sounds. And turn it up. Okay, so it gets really loud. I would say they're not the best speakers that I've heard. They're very good for a gaming laptop. Actually, they're quite good for a gaming laptop. A lot of times gaming laptops have bad speakers. But the 5 series from Lenovo doesn't have as nice speakers as the 7. So the Slim 5, Pro 5, the 14-inch, 16-inch, whatever, they're okay. They're nice and clear. The high end, the mid-range, all sounds nice and clear, loud. The only thing is they lack a little bit of bass.
All right, there's a guy. Let's end his life because the government told me to. Ha! Got his ass. So now let's go over here and kill this guy. Okay, sorry, I'll stop dicking you around. What you're supposed to do is...
So it sounds really good. So for like meetings, spoken portions of videos, it sounds great. Awesome. This is how loud the laptop is. Just doing some Windows updates and hanging out. Unbalanced. So pretty quiet. My room is about 32 as a floor, so 5 dB over that. Let's check the noise here. Again, run performance. Pretty noisy, 55. I mean, not abnormal or anything, but definitely on the noisier end. So much quieter on balance mode. And here's just my typical reminder. If you're using NVIDIA GeForce Experience, you have the option of going with Game Ready or Studio drivers. Right now it has Game Ready drivers installed, which I'm going to update. Studio drivers are good if you're going to be using this for content creation, 3D modeling, that kind of stuff. Studio drivers can perform considerably better in those type tasks, potentially even up to 4 times better in productivity type tasks You can still play games on studio drivers. They run fine. They actually run well. The primary difference is that they don't often have the newest games on them. The game ready drivers are usually like more cutting edge. So if brand new game comes out, you're waiting to play that, you're going to want to go with the game ready drivers because they're always going to be more fleshed out, and then you'll get better performance on game ready. Here's a look at the webcam. You can see here it's actually wider than I anticipated. Very wide webcam here. It's actually very wide. It's really brightening it up. This is a white room, and there's a decent amount of light in front of me, but there's also a light behind me. So I feel like it may be intentionally brightening the whole scene because the back is so much brighter than the front. It's pulling at my face. I'm pale, but I'm not that pale. So now we'll look at some benchmarks here. So the first is the SSD speed here. You can see it's a Samsung drive. This is actually a Samsung 90D Pro. It's just the OEM label for it. Very, very fast NVMe. So the nice thing is you can use this as your operating system and just slap in a second NVMe in the other slot because this is a very, very fast NVMe. Now we'll move to the Wi-Fi, and you can see the Wi-Fi here is very fast. Downloads 700 megabytes a second. Uploads actually faster. That's as fast as my Wi-Fi gets. It might go a little bit faster, but it's good Wi-Fi 6. And then we're looking at some Cinebench R23 here. And you can see here the scores are quite good. We're actually just shy of 17,000 on the CPU. So that's actually a really good score here for this 7840HS. We are getting a little bit of throttling here. You can see it's getting a little bit spicy on the CPU, but you can see here it's still performing very well. So it's going to run a little bit hot. Then when we drop down to balance mode here, we actually don't lose that much performance. We're still at 15,300 on balance mode. So very good performance even on balance. And you can see just how much cooler it runs. So you can, we're actually peaking here, not even at 80. We're running on average about 50 to 70 on average for the actual performance here. We can see the time spy scores here, same idea. So we're getting a graphics score of 10,730, CPU score of 11,000 or so. So really, really good performance there again, running quite cool. You can see the actual temperatures there, really good. We did get, a couple instances where it peaked up quite a bit, but the average is, we're looking at like 50 or 60, and this is on performance mode here. And then when we drop down to balance mode here, it doesn't do quite as well. We're getting 9,400 on the graphics, and CPU is still doing quite well, 10,000. And you can see the temperatures there are even lower. So it runs very cool on balance mode there. So you can basically pick the mode that's best suitable for your needs there. And then we're going to look at some battery tests here. So this is the first test here is at 60 hertz on the refresh rate for the screen, best power efficiency on silent mode, not battery saver or anything like that. And I have the screen actually set up to 75% brightness. So not super dim or anything like that because that's not realistic. And you can see here that the idle power draw is only -7. This is about average. It goes up and down a bit, but I'd say it's averaging about -7 watts, which is giving us 623 minutes. That's quite a bit of time, around 10 hours. And then you can see on my second part here, I'm actually doing some 1080p 60 FPS video, same setting, 60 hertz, 75% brightness. And you can see here we're getting 443 minutes. And that's about, 6.5 hours or so. So you're going to be able to basically watch HD 60 FPS YouTube for 6 or 7 hours. Mixed use, you're probably going to get about 6 or 7 hours out of this laptop, despite the fact that it has a smaller battery. Obviously, if you're doing intensive stuff like gaming, it's going to drop down quite a bit. All right, so now we'll do some game testing. As I mentioned, I'm going to have a full game testing video as well, where I actually show it off. But I want to show you a little bit on the experience of this beautiful OLED with the lights on too. So we'll see how that looks. And of course, noise. You can hear how noisy it is. Okay, so here we go. This is actually above 1440p. It's actually above 1600p. This is 1800p on medium with no scaling. I actually didn't anticipate it would run this well, but yeah, because this is above 1440p and above 1600p. This is 2800 by 1800, so somewhere between 1440p and 4K. How is it running so well? Shockingly good results here. We'll set it to 75, which is technically like quality mode. That may get us close to 60. Probably won't get us right to 60, but hopefully close. Maybe like 50 or something. Yeah, 55. That's pretty good actually. So this is the way to go. 1800p, just native resolution on the screen, and then throw on quality FSR, which will actually render pretty high because we're at 1800p, and you're going to get 45 FPS here on medium. You can play with the settings a little bit, turn it up and down, but we're going to be above 30 in all cases. The 0.1% lows are above 30. It's going to pull a bit from the GPU. Let's go down to balance mode and see what kind of performance hit we take. You can see that GPU dropped down to 6870 watts. huge drop, and only lost a few frames. This is why you're probably going to want to play this game in performance, in balance mode instead of performance. The noise on the fans is much lower too. And you can see the temperatures there on the GPU now are down to, below 70. So pretty good. Let's kick out to the CPU real quick. So you can see here, like that's the GPU there, the CPU here. Yeah, nice and cool actually. Max was pretty high, but the average is actually really good. That's probably when it was compiling shaders. You can see here we're running under, holy smoke, we're running under 70 in this hole. This is very good cooling on this laptop. This is very good cooling. They did not slouch on the cooling on this laptop. They didn't want it to be spicy like the G14. It can get pretty hot. They did not screw around here. Okay, so that's good. Let's just put on a little bit higher FSR. Again, because we're on such a high resolution natively, we can turn FSR up. Let's put it on balanced FSR. We're still on medium. So this is 1800p with balanced FSR. Still looks pretty good. Now we're close to 60. It doesn't look blurry because we're working with more pixel data, right? Like we're running at 1800p native. So personally, I'd probably play, I might actually play like this. I was thinking the lower FSR quality, but because there's so much pixel data at 1800p, I mean, we're in between 1440p and 4K, it does look great on this screen. You don't want to use balanced FSR that much on like a 1080p screen. It just doesn't look good. Here it looks fine. And look at that. We're running on silent mode. The fans are basically off now. Temperatures 63 degrees on that 4060, so it's even getting cooler even with the fans off. And we're still rocking 60 FPS on silent mode. Just shy of 60 FPS, but pretty impressive. Now it is 1800p, but it is balanced FSR. So clearly they've updated the drivers. I tested this game ahead of launch on my 4060 7840HS Slim 7, and it didn't run this well. So clearly they've either updated the drivers or the game or both, because it's running very well now. So what do I think about the brand new Lenovo Legion Slim 5 14-inch? I think this is an absolute winner, and I think Asus is going to start sweating from this. Not only is Lenovo producing the Legion Go that's going to rival the Asus ROG Ally, now they've also targeted Asus's coveted G14 with this here, and this is an absolute winner. I kind of anticipated it would be like moderate quality and like decent overall because it's, the 5 lineup, but this thing is phenomenal. The cooling in this thing, the cooling in this laptop is exceptional, meaning you're going to get absolute top performance out of the components in it. Runs really, really cool, nice and quiet, especially on those lower modes there. The build quality is actually really nice on this laptop. It's quite upgradable. I mean, you get spec yourself out with the 32 gigabyte model in here, and then you can add in a second NVMe, so you can get dual NVMe on this laptop. I mean, overall, it's a really, really compelling buy. I mean, OLED screen is absolutely beautiful on this as well, so it's really a compelling laptop. It's kind of hard to beat. It has really good cooling, really good performance, killer screen as well, nice upgradability on the internals there. You get the benefits of that beautiful, you can see me reflected there on that beautiful screen there. Awesome, awesome, awesome screen, great keyboard and trackpad. I mean, there's really nothing to critique on this laptop. I mean, if you don't like glossy screens and OLEDs, then you'd want to go with an IPS screen. Maybe that's a negative because you're not a glossy OLED kind of person, but I mean, this is an absolute winner. It's not as much screen loss as I thought it would be. It's still on the bigger end of a 14-inch screen, and it just looks so nice. And then you get that increased portability that you get from, the slimmer laptop as well. So it's very, very, very portable, just great all-around laptop. So I think this is an absolute winner. If you're looking for a 14-inch laptop, if you're looking for a 14-inch gaming laptop, I mean, definitely consider this. This is a very, very high contender. I think this is probably, this and the Legion 7 Slim are going to be my favorite laptops of 2023.